I say, be careful about my country and how we tell our history. And in this account of my life, as I have so far lived it, you will also have to make up your own mind about whether I too indulge in such invention, in particular about myself. All who write history have reasons for doing so, and there's nothing so dangerous as a history written for a reason of the heart. The deeper the reason, the more unreliable the history. That is why I say, be careful about me. Those paragraphs, written in a looping brown script, sat undisturbed for 75 years in a large wooden chest. They lay beneath a pile of clothing, a lady's green gown, a heavier and more ornate green brocade coat with cream silk finishings, some brown leather gauntlets, a small velvet sack containing tresses of brown hair, and a pair of ladies' buttoned boots. The long-time owner of this trunk, an uncaring man with a runny nose, knew nothing about it or where it came from. It had been sitting for some years in a corner of the shed attached to his hardware premises, and, ungifted by curiosity, he had never opened it. To this day, he can't recall anything other than that he bought it from a pair of tinkers, whose tribe had been buying and selling antique furniture and junk all over Ireland in the early 1990s. The travellers, when traced and asked, said that they couldn't remember it, that they often bought and sold a vanload of stuff, or as they pronounced it, stuff, in that town. Now the chest rests in an attic of a county library in the south of Ireland. The man who donated it bought it from the hardware shop. He recognized it from a description he had been given by a family friend who had often talked about it and who had searched for it. As a piece of furniture or an antique, it has little interest. Made of oak, with sharp, squared corners, it has a simple brass lock and two ordinary, serviceable handles. And when the lid is raised, the timbers still yield a faint, musty smell, that familiar incense of the past, probably from the fabric of the clothing. However, the antique objects, together with the written contents, assembled with other papers and letters, will soon form an exhibit in the museum section of the library. It is expected to arouse strong interest on account of the main document and the story it tells. In a great personal drama, the two principal characters played out their lives against a backdrop of Ireland's most crucial historical period. The narrator with the sloping handwriting was a man named Charles O'Brien, part wanderer, part journalist, many parts lover. After he wrote those opening "be careful" sentences, he loaded his document so copiously with the details of his world that it has been entirely possible to trace him and his story and the lives of those he knew or encountered and the forces and mysteries that became part of his life. His document, apart from the slightly crumpled top and bottom pages, has remained in excellent condition. Although time and the weight of the clothing in the oak chest compressed the pages, Mr. O'Brien had been careful and wealthy enough to use high-quality writing paper, and he wrote with expensive ink, which did not fade. When even the innermost pages were gingerly pulled apart, they lost none of their legibility. The handwriting helps. His big-handed script had no affectations. Every word he wrote is rewardingly legible. As is his style, and in this Mr. O'Brien was also a man of his time. Other than a breaking down of sentence length and an occasional formality, few major permanent changes have occurred in English writing fashions since the middle of the 19th century. The writers of the period, such as Robert Louis Stevenson, who lived from 1850 to 1894, could have been writing today, so fresh seems their general idiom. Directly after his opening apologia, Mr. O'Brien tells the first of his many tales, a vivid account of an incident from his childhood. I commenced writing this volume, whose genesis and purpose I will presently explain, with a memory that haunts me, and that blazes with the fire at the core of Ireland's history during my early lifetime, the struggle over land. This report may seem to come from the storehouse of distant recollection, but it has the higher value of immediacy, because, at my father's request, I began writing it directly we reached home on the day in question. Save for adjusting boyish errors and excesses, and maturing the style into adult expression, I have not tampered with the account since I wrote it.